Hey everybody, my name's Dan Hunter, and I want to spend a few minutes just talking about the idea of church safety. Church safety for us is something that isn't just relegated to certain departments. In other words, many times when we think church safety, we immediately go to kids ministry, and we think we've got to protect kids. We've got to make sure that our kids ministry is safe. But I want to broaden that scope a little bit. When we view safety, when we view creating an atmosphere of wellness and safety around the church, we don't look at it as kids or in a service or just in a hallway. We actually look at it as a holistic mindset. So we've created some general thoughts about safety that really guide our teams and our volunteers and how they engage. So I want to walk you through some general practices, but also some specific things that we use and give you some resources as well. When we think of safety, what we actually talk a lot about is that safety is something that should be permeated through every area of the church, from the moment people drive onto our parking lot all the way into probably one of the most secure, normal places that you would see safety, which is kids ministry. So for us, we think, how is the parking lot safe? How are the entrances and exits of the building? How are they safe? How is the lobby safe? How are the hallways safe? How are the back office areas? How are they safe? How are the kids ministry safe? How are the check-in areas safe? So we actually walk through every area of the building, all the way from the street, parking lot, all the way into the most secure that you and I would agree needs to be secure, which is the kids ministry. So we not only look at it as though, hey, we need to make sure safety is here, but we walk all the way through and saying, how can we raise awareness of safety? It's not just implementing guidelines that are hidden in the background so that no one knows they're there. We actually allow people to realize, hey, this place is really aware of safety. Because not only do we want to create systems and safety procedures to ensure safety, we want to create awareness of safety in everyone's mind so that now not only does everyone feel safe, which is probably the obvious response to that, but another great benefit is this. When people see police officers or a safety team, or they see these procedures and systems, now everyone is watching. Everyone is kind of their own safety, they got their own pair of safety eyes, right? And they're looking around, and now it just creates an awareness that now we've got 1,000 eyes versus maybe 10 eyes. And so we kind of look at it as not only creating systems, but actually raising awareness of safety. A couple of thoughts on this safety team that is really driven us forward is we created this safety team, which for you and I would be a group of men and women who, it just so happens in our case, a lot of them are ex-cops or military. Doesn't have to be that, but we created a safety team. And this safety team has a lot of jobs, and they float around the auditorium. They float around the church before. They show up really early. They check all the exits, check all the entrances. They walk through the checklist, make sure these doors are secured, this area is secured, this is set up right, and they kind of walk through the whole thing. Now, the safety team for us, we have a safety team captain who kind of runs the team. We communicate to him. He communicates to the team on a monthly basis. We meet with them. Then they meet on a weekly basis for about 20 minutes before every service. They meet and they gather in and they run through possible scenarios every single week. So when service comes, they have a big marker board with the layout of our auditorium, and they actually assign a different safety person to specific and key areas in the auditorium. Almost every section in a certain point at a certain place has a different safety team member who is assigned to that area. They are all hooked up with a headset, which cost us a little bit of money. But I think you and I both know that in the case of anything happening, spending a little bit up front prevents spending a ton of stuff on the back end. And so these guys actually have pinpointed points that they sit all throughout the auditorium. Then we have about 5 guys who we call floaters. Some of them float around the halls, and some of them are floating just waiting on someone on the inside in a section that may profile someone, not in a negative way, but in just a prevention way, to look at someone and go, hey, this person's acting a little weird, or this person's wearing a trench coat in July, or they may look at someone and they're kind of walking toward the stage and they keep walking up and down the aisles. And so they'll actually say, hey guys, we need eyes on so-and-so. And now one of these floaters will actually make their way around. They don't create a scene. They don't do anything. They just get within 10, 15 feet of that person and watch them. And it's really casual. We do it in love. We don't lead out of authority or lead out of hate, but we lead out of love, and everyone's just there. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, the people we're profiling doesn't even know that they are being watched, but we do that to ensure safety across the board. Now, our safety team also runs through scenarios, and they kind of gather and they walk through different situations and scenarios that may pop up. Things like this. What are we gonna do if someone has a little red laser light, and a red laser light, even if it's a pin, we don't even know if it's a pin, but a red laser light on the stage on a worship leader or on a speaker or somewhere in a public place on the stage, and we see that, what are we gonna do in that scenario? So we've actually created a procedure that if there's a pin light that actually shows up on someone, even if it's a kid who's doing, we don't even know that, what do we do? And so the procedures could look like this. The lights come up a little bit, one of the safety guys come up on stage, then we kind of isolate and figure out where it's coming from. And so they've got their own procedures, and it's really amazing. They've got scenarios of what to happen if there's an active shooter, if the power goes out in the building, if there's an incident with a parent in the hallway, if there's an incident in our kids ministry, how does that affect the other parts of the building? So they have about 23 scenarios that they not only walk through and have created procedures of how to handle, but they also engage in these procedures on a weekly basis and review them. So before service, they'll say, okay, today, if we have a pin light, how do we react? If there's an incident in the hall, how do we react? And so these guys be able to walk through these scenarios, and they're able to kind of keep the church not only aware of safety, but to keep a feeling and a spirit of safety alive so that everyone can connect to God and everyone can connect to what God wants to do in their life as well. And that's the whole point. So think through maybe implementing a safety team. A couple other thoughts on our safety team. They don't just guard the service in the hallways. They actually also assign a safety member to our pastors. And so what they will do is they will actually follow us around and stay within 15, 20 feet for a lot of reasons. Obviously, there could be an irate person about something that was spoken about, or there could just be someone who's acting out of rage in culture, right? And bringing it into the church. It may not even be anything we've done or said, but it's not even just the negative things. It's also the other situations where there may be someone in your church that comes and wants to engage with you as a pastor. And so they engage with you as a pastor, and then they kind of like trap you in a conversation. I think we've all been there as well. So we actually have a signal that during a conversation, we can give a safety guy who is always within 15 feet of us, watching every conversation we're in. Their eyes are peeled right on us. They don't divert their eyes. And if we give the signal, they step in and say, I'm so sorry, Pastor, but I need you to go with me to the other room. So then we're able to engage back with that person and say, I'm so sorry, I need to go, but I will be praying with you about that. And if there's anything further we can do, man, I want to be able to engage with you on that. Please email me on that or whatever. We can still pastor the moment. Now, we rarely engage in that because obviously this is the reason we're here, is to pastor people. But if there is a scenario by which you get trapped, or there is a negative situation, they're there to protect. Or if there's some type of a situation where people are getting too close or anything like that, they're able to step in and be right there in the conversation, not even to say anything, but to create a presence. We also have a safety team member who is assigned to walk with the offering. So when the offering comes, the offering will come all the way in the back, and then when they walk it to the safe, a safety team member is actually walking right next to the person carrying the offering. The safety team members walk through the hallways with them, along with an armed officer, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So on one side is a safety team volunteer. The other side is a paid officer. They will walk the person all the way to where the safe is to deposit the money and to pick up any money that may be in the external hallway office boxes throughout the building. We also have these same safety guys who help us as pastors watch our kids. So when we pick up our kids and they walk through the hall, just to protect them in case somebody would ever target one of our children. So we want to make sure that safety is present throughout the entire building. Hope that helps in creating like a safety environment throughout the whole building. Another area that I want to touch on that most of us watching this video, you already kind of probably know is a big deal, and that's kids ministry. And even though we kind of have it permeated through the whole environment of the building, kids ministry is a big thing. And so for us, what we do is a couple of things that may be a little bit unique, but I wanted to share those with you just as a thought for you to consider. We do background checks, obviously, on anyone who is in ministry with youth or kids, but we've actually changed our philosophy. We actually do background checks on every single volunteer in the whole place. Now, that costs you some money, but it just helps us because anyone that sees anyone working in the parking lot or maybe in the hall as a greeter, as an usher, we may not naturally do background checks because they don't work with kids or youth, but they're all seen as leaders in the eyes of a kid. When a kid sees a badge or a shirt or someone who's directing traffic in the parking lot, they view them as a leader. Every volunteer, every leader that works in our church in any area, we do a background check on them because of our kids ministry and youth ministry. Not only that, those that actually engage with kids ministry and youth ministry have to do a step even further with background checks, and that is Ministry Safe. Now, Ministry Safe is an external church ministry that you can engage with as a church. The website is ministrysafe.com. A couple of thoughts about what it costs and what it does for you is this. Ministry Safe, for us, we have to pay about $2 for every person that takes the test and renews, which is really a small price to pay every 2 years to engage people in a safety procedure and create that environment. But what it also does is it gives you access to their lawyers in case anything is even brought up in a safety issue with a kid. And so having access to their lawyers is a great thing. Knowing the cost is that minimal is a great thing. Another benefit of it is that it strengthens your own liability insurance you have through your own insurance company. Most of us in churches, we have liability insurance. This actually strengthens it when you're able to show that your volunteers, even if someone got mixed up in a situation that is causing you to engage in a lawsuit or have conversations with lawyers, it strengthens your liability case just for having sent those people through Ministry Safe. So there's a lot of benefits there. So in addition to creating an overall church environment safety, from the services to the hallways in every area, and then also creating those environments in a pretty strong way for kids ministry, another thing that we offer our church is some safety classes and courses throughout the year. So we'll do training twice a year just on safety procedures, and we invite the whole church if they want to come. Now, a lot of them don't, some of them do, but it's also a way that we actually recruit to our safety teams, because some people may come and they love the safety procedures and the heart of the church of keeping it safe, and they're like, man, I need to be a part of this team. So it's a way that we can even grow those teams. But our safety team is required to be there. So twice a year we go through training with them on a whole day. And I'm telling you this, when you create an area, an environment of safety for the whole church, from the parking lot all the way to the kids ministry, you create an environment where people can focus on God and people can receive from God and worship God and grow in their faith. And that is what it's all about.